Hi, everyone. Welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa, and today is Wednesday. So, we're having a great talk about wellness and longevity with Dr. Reg McDaniel from New Eden. You guys can check out my link in the description for a link to the website where you can learn more about New Eden as well as see other information, Dr. Reg's book, and a link to purchase New Eden yourself. There is a discount when you purchase a subscription, so check that out. And you can also send Dr. Reg a note when you're making a purchase to help with any of your, how does he say it? Functions from abnormal. No, I'll ask him about it. We'll be right back right after this.
A series of lectures based on longevity, and particularly in the modern area, it's longevity, more years of good life and good health. We started with a chapter by a researcher in Japan by the name of Katani, when they discovered that Japanese citizens living in the Okinawan Islands were living 10 years longer than on the mainland. And then apparently Okinawa was awakened to the fact that they were important. And we went to an article in Epic newspaper about a foundation was established in Okinawa. They found out they were important in one of the longest living areas on the globe, and they started studying themselves. At this time, we're going to go to the fact that this idea of longevity and good health is, I don't understand why we're having problems with showing this. This is National Geographic magazine, and they call the World Health Organization has found at least 5 major areas where individuals have a high incidence of living to 90 to 100 years of age. And I pointed out that longevity has long been a goal of human beings that go back to the pyramids and the Hebrew Christian scriptures. However, if I had had this issue, that I don't know if I'd had it when I was making the PowerPoint presentation. This is William Schaffner. And if you look at his picture, you would say this is a gentleman that's not over 55, 65 years of age. However, he's 91. And what is significant about this, and the reason he's on the cover, is that I will share with you that they have pointed out that his life, he has incorporated personally many of the aspects that they have found out in the blue zones by the World Health Organization. And I want to read you a little bit. He's 91 years old, and he has been an actor, a director, singer, and author spanning 7 decades, and includes a Golden Globe and 2 Emmy Awards. He has written 30 books, recorded 8 albums, performed on Broadway, has participated in more than 250 television shows, movies, and plays. At 90, Schaffner became the oldest person to ever fly into space, traveling as a passenger on Jeff Bezos' spaceship Blue Origin. Well, you say, how in the world was this accomplished? As you go further into this article, first thing he says, he shows his humor. He says, well, the main thing to longevity is not die. However, it says he has implemented the key life expanding practices shared by the world's longest living blue zone communities, which we're going to get into today with this National Geographic article I showed you. And this includes lifestyle habits like living with a purpose, getting lots of natural movement, not just exercise, but in your daily activities, eating a more plant-based diet, and prioritizing family. And if you will notice in the blue zone communities, over and over again, they are an isolated community. In fact, there's 3 of them are islands, and they have not been urbanized like the major centers of their country. And the people find activities. Our body, the human equation is it's designed for activity. And the brain is the function of the mind, and the mind controls all systems in the body, and it even influences gene expression. And to keep the mind busy, active, and on purpose, as shown in this life of William Shatner, is one of the things is for personal freedom and liberty and activity. You have control of this, what you eat, how much you eat. And recall that the Okinawans had this statement from Confucius that don't eat till you're full. Quit eating when you're about 80% full. And this helps prevent a lot of gastrointestinal problems. So one of the main reasons for this is not only is this 100% of the population, everybody faces aging, but you have the power in your own life to implement different aspects of the blue zones, as we have started to indicate, starting back after World War II, that in Japan they realized the Okinawan Islands that there were people living to 100, and the average lifespan in the Okinawan Islands were 10 years longer than the mainland. So with that, I want to go to the PowerPoint presentation today that's based on National Geographic and the blue zones. This is the slide that I have selected to start all this anti-aging with good health that the World Health Organization has identified places where longevity is common. Of course, we want good health. Nobody wants to be in their 80s or 90s and in bed or wheelchair and someone helping them get around. And that was one of the things that they observed in the Okinawan Islands, that they had people, 94, 95, that were living independent and needing no help from the outside. And these areas are called the blue zone. And this is what we will find that was National Geographic about the current science. And as I had said before, this is 100% of the population incidence. It infects everyone. I don't know of anyone yet that doesn't have to participate in the aging process. However, by presenting this, I hope that you will pick up on activities and things that you can do personally, that you can make your own blue zone lifestyle yourself. And of course, important in this is avoiding activities in your life that are unhealthy and seeking activities in your life that are healthy. Now, one of the challenges of a United States citizen is abundance and ease. Also, we have TV ads that are constantly showing us inviting different kinds of foods. And every city with any kind of population has fast food, or as some say, French fried franchises. And this is not a healthy environment added to abundance and ease. In our past, the American society burn 5 times the number of calories each day in their daily work on farms and ranches. Fact is, on farms and ranches in 1900, over 90% were in the agribusiness, but with urbanization now, less than 5% of our population is involved with farming or ranches. Now, work in the home used to require burning calories. My grandmother, I can remember having a big iron pot with fire under it out in the yard and a washboard. And that was a very calorie and energy assuming activity. My mother used to go to or have a Maytag washing machine with 3 tubs around it to move the washed clothes from the rinses to white things in the bluing rinse. And that required a fair amount of energy, but nothing like the old iron pot and washboard. But now we have automatic washer dryers in the modern home, and you just take your linens and different clothes and pop them in the door and come back later and they've been dried. You didn't even have to take them outside and hang them with clothespins on a line, which also took calories and helped reduce obesity in the general population. And we're barraged with various things that promote calorie intake by snacks and sodas and candy bars and other fast foods. Now, in the United States, they've calculated the average patient, citizen now has about 79 pounds of fat consumed a year, about 8,000 teaspoons of sugar, which is about 40,000 calories, and 57 gallons of soda, which comes in the aluminum cans. A lot of them have sugar and some of them have sugar substitutes. Some of those sugar substitutes we find out are not healthy. If you take 100 people that decide that they want to be healthy, go on a diet and exercise, in 24 months or 2 years, less than 5% are still on that activity, they find out. But in 1900 to 1980, the lifespan of the United States citizens doubled. But now the United States rates 29th among the nations of the United Nations in longevity. The average U.S. lifespan now is 76 years. However, the top ranked nations, their survivals are 84 to 85 years. And as we've said, in some areas, particularly the blue zones, their quality of life is very high for that age. And of course, the World Health Organization has designated these as blue zones. And I'm trying with this series to inform individuals how they can adopt aspects of the blue zones in their own health, their own life. Now, these blue zones all have longevity, but most important, they have a good quality of life. Now, one of these blue zones is Greece. This is an island in Greece, and they have the lowest rate of middle-age mortality or death, and one of the lowest rates of dementia of all countries. Then we've previously had Okinawan, Japan, which has been designated by the World Health Organization as a blue zone. And there they have the longest living women of any area on the earth. And they have more people over 90 living independently in these islands. In fact, the oldest living woman's 114 years old. Then I'm not sure how you pronounce this portion of the island of Sardinia, which is off the coast of Italy. Again, pointing out that in Greece, in Japan, and now in Sardinia, these are all islands away from the major population centers of urbanization, and where they have continued with lifestyles and activities more in keeping with 50 to say 100 years ago, and some of them even longer. How you pronounce Oglestra, Oglestra, Sardinia, have the longest living men of any area. Now, we have what you might call a population island in California, at area where Loma Linda University and Medical School exists, and it's sort of an island about the midsection of California, a population island where there is a high percentage of people of the Adventist Church, and those people live an average of 10 years longer than our national average of 76 years. They tend to live to be up to about 86 years. And I have lectured at the Loma Linda University 3 times on this technology of more comprehensive nutrition. And there in their public health department, they have in their files what is called the Adventist longitudinal study. And I went all over the university trying to find it. It wasn't in the medical school, it wasn't in the routine university, it was in the public health department. And I asked for it, and they kind of smiled, and they went over to the file, and they brought out a 3-page stapled together, just titles and authors papers that go back to the 1930s, that the Seventh-day Adventists are the healthiest, longest living population that medicine and science has ever scientifically examined, back to the 1930s. Then there's a peninsula in Costa Rica, again, which is isolated from the population center, Nicoya, Nicoya, and it's noted for the low rate of middle age mortality. People in the Middle Ages don't die, and they have the most males over 100 years of age in this Costa Rican peninsula. And these are the blue zones, just the titles of them, and they're the main thing that they're noted for against all the other nations. Now, what is common in the blue zones? Well, I pointed out that they are rather isolated, or islands, away from the population centers where you have all the fast food chains that chase population centers. But one of the first things is that they have minimally processed plant-based food that they eat. They eat what comes from nature and more in a natural form. It is not processed. They have a high instance of whole grains, of leafy vegetables. They eat more nuts, tubers, and beans than any other group of populations. And I like to point out that nuts and beans and legumes and these seeds of plants are very special structures, because within them they have a little sleeping embryo for the next generation. And in nature, the creative, organizing, designing power that is present provides for this little embryo a food supply inside this seed structure to provide for the little embryo's first tap root and first leaf. And then with that leaf, photosynthesis is turned on. But the covering of beans and seeds is a biopolymer to protect the little embryo and also the food supply from being too hot, too cold, too dry, too wet, and against some funguses and things that would eat them. And so it's a remarkable structure, and this is high in these blue zone populations. They tend to have meat no more than 5 times a month. Some of them only have meat at festivals and special occasions, and seldom more than 1 time a week. Any type of meat. They have low meat. Far as the liquid to drink, they tend to drink water, tea, coffee, and they have some wine, which is an extract from the grapes, which come directly from nature with a little fermentation. They drink little cow's milk, and sometimes they drink goat milk and other animal milk. Uh, Now, one of the problems is a global commercialization of food is replacing some of the above items and resulting in deterioration of the health in the blue zones. If you will remember, a more recent survey of the Okinawan Islands, they pointed out that the young people are turning away from the diet of the older people that has been present there for generations and tending to go with fast foods like hamburgers, fried chicken, pizza, and their health is deteriorating, and do not appear to be that they're going to live as long, as have as good a quality of life. Another thing about this type of personal activities is that chronic diseases of aging are not very common. In fact, is they're reduced. However, with this globalization of food supply, chronic diseases of aging is rising in frequency. Now, there are multiple city programs in the United States trying to implement in the city benefits that have been identified in the blue zones by the World Health Organization. And one of the things that beyond this that was particularly pointed out in the life of William Shatner is that there's active interest in interacting with other people and having a purpose in life. Again, this is the function of the brain, which is the mind, and our bodies need activity, not only physical, but mental. Now, in Fort Worth, Texas, they have the mayor's program have made an economic estimate of the price that poor health practices cost the city $17 billion annual in lost productivity, and that's why they're trying to implement. And they're recognizing restaurants by name that promote a healthy menu of items listed for people to eat. Also, in these city programs, they are emphasizing avocados, enchiladas, and fruit items, particularly more avocado enchiladas than chicken or beef enchiladas. They are increasing the number of restaurants that don't allow smoking, and some cities are promoting areas that homes haven't been built on or parking lots, and they promote small garden plots. And many individuals, even in their flower beds, are growing produce to take it and eat it directly off the vine. There is an effort across the states and cities to get people to walk 3 times a week, and they're building bike trails to encourage bicycling. An important thing that they're pointing out that you need some downtime, that you shouldn't be pushing constantly work, and that people should turn to medication and prayer and relax. And this aspect of all of this is to reduce obesity, which is a bad thing to carry into your aging years. for its effect on the joints, and the obesity is very commonly associated with type 2 diabetes, a metabolic damage to the blood vessels that promotes atherosclerosis. And obesity alters the neuromuscular balance in the body to cause pain, which as you age, you don't want as much. They're in cities, they're increasing the access more hours to gymnasiums, to playgrounds, and to sports fields, and offering recognition on TV channels and giving awards for performance on the sports fields and playgrounds. All this is done because it is recognized, and the media is trying to promote this because it improves the economy for people to be healthy. Now, there are 9 principles that are being implemented from what the World Health Organization has found in the blue zones that try to walk more, which is a natural activity, rather than just going to the gym, and to work in the yard and do things in the house rather than these little robots that clean the floor. That just any type of active exercise of the body as well as the mind. They recommend that people learn to work puzzles and learn rhymes and to read about history and art, to fertilize and activate the mind just as well as the muscles of the body. And very important is find purpose in a work and purpose beyond work. What does this mean to people in society that you're providing that people want? You should look at it not just as so many hours to get so many dollars, but what does this do for other people? There is a point to try to shed and relieve emotional and physical stress. And in different societies, particularly in the blue zones, they revere ancestors and have celebrations several times a year to celebrate their ancestors. They promote meditation, prayer, taking naps, and even having happy hours with coworkers. As you may recall from Okinawa, they had the 80% eating rule that came from the saying of Confucius that it is healthier to stop eating before you feel full and bloated. And this not only reduces obesity, but it reduces complaints of the GI tract, of the stomach, the esophagus, and the abdomen. Number 5 is a more plant food, to eat soy instead of steak. We've talked and elaborated a little bit about seeds and to eat more beans and to reduce meat intake. In regard to alcohol, should be very modest, and particularly they promote drinking wine with the meal and not imbibing anything with alcohol when you're alone and not in a social setting, but as part of the meal. Because wine comes from grapes, which is a great source of polyphenols that is very important in the human condition to develop a circle of friends that you share ideas and thoughts with and activity. And that it's important to become part of a community. They have found out, I don't know who did it, that Going to church 4 times a month, they say adds about 14 years to a life. How they came up with that, I'm not sure, but it is a time of reduced stress, meditation, and prayer, and enjoying congregational music. Another point is that in the blue zones, there's very strong family ties and relationship with the children. And they have said that a happy marriage can add 3 years to the lifespan of any individual. Now, we mentioned that the Okinawans were surveyed after World War II, and then they've been done more recently. And they found out again that I've mentioned that the fast foods, fact is, one of the researchers in Tokyo told me, said, we lost the war and we won hamburgers, hot dogs, and French fried potatoes and fried chicken. And it's had a impact, particularly on the youth, that has abandoned traditional dietary activity in Okinawa. But one of the big things of difference is that the Okinawan-based research group found that the researchers that came after World War II made an a priori decision that, just like in China, Japan, Korea, rice was the #1 source of calorie intake in the diet. Well, that was not true in Okinawa. They found out that, if you will notice in the circle, that 67% of the calorie intake was from sweet potatoes and not rice, and that rice was only 12% of the major source of food that came in, and the plant-based diet before the loss of World War II was about 87% plant-based diet in this circle. Now, in the modern diet, even those that are not the young people, the plant-based diet is more like 71%, and grains have been increased greatly, and beans have been increased, and rice has been increased, and sweet potatoes have been reduced. So that was one of the main changes that the more current research on the first population that they began to recognize that diet and lifestyle had a lot to do with longevity and quality of life. And I want to end with something here in this lecture that, as medical director of a dietary supplement company that was all over the Americas, and at the time I was there in 10 foreign countries, and I lectured in all of these. And I had brought to my attention that we had multiple individuals that had 5 or more deviations from normal health. Now, I use this deviations from normal health to avoid using any disease terms, because under the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of '94 that established formally the dietary supplement industry, in the labeling section, and I paraphrase a quote there, that only FDA-approved pharmaceutical drugs can represent or claim to treat, cure, mitigate a disease or syndrome or correct an abnormal health condition. So all we do is just say, by nutrition, we support the engineering and design of life that is coded in the genes that control cellular synthesis of bioactive compounds that run the biochemistry and physiology of life. And these genes are programmed in effect to seek a normal zone for whatever system that they're involved in or any product they are making by cellular synthesis. And this was long ago recognized by the father of human physiology, Dr. Hans Selye, and he called this area of balance homeostasis. And that's important because the genes are set in pairs, much like climate control or the thermostat on your wall. Now, your thermostat on the wall and your device in your car seeks a comfort zone, but the genes, if you give them the proper nutritional support for cellular synthesis, seeks the normal zone or homeostasis, much like the thermostat. In other words, if there are nutrients required to increase, say, host defense, but there are nutrients required to downregulate the genes that turn on for host defense, to come back to watchful waiting for another potential infectious assault. So in 1985, I was brought into a company that was attempting to take the gel from the aloe vera leaf and determine that, well, the history of it was that it had been used for 5,000 years for various supports of normal health. And what the company was going to do is find out what is in aloe vera leaf gel. And scientists, chemists found out it was acetylated mannose, an acetylated sugar. It's 40 to 50% of the sugars that are in the aloe leaf gel. And for short, it's called acemannan. And what I'm getting around for the white box effect is that we had these people that had multiple deviations from normal. And lo and behold, when they started to take the formulation of more comprehensive nutrition built around the acemannan molecule from the aloe plant, the most life-threatening of the 5 deviations would respond first. And I've got a hierarchy here as an example. An infection will take over the body quicker than almost anything, which we have seen during this current pandemic with the China virus or COVID. And so the most life-threatening thing is an infection, and that would be the first thing to respond. Then the next thing would be a malignancy, and that comes as leukemias, lymphomas, cancers, and sarcomas. The next would be less threatening would be, say, your autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and hypothyroidism of autoimmune origin. Then the next thing that would respond would be metabolic, such as type 2 diabetes. And then it would get on down to, say, chronic ear infections from the past, particularly I think of some individuals that were life guards in their teenage years, and they had had chronic ear infections. Then such mundane things as jock itch or foot fungus of athletes, or in other words. And the last thing would be things like dandruff. So there would be a priority of the white box effect, and I call it a white box effect, as contrast to the black box effect that the FDA applies to drugs, as they find that they have much worse toxicities and side effects than when the drug was first released. Now, this white box effect was a theory to be tested. It's just something that I observed. And I think I mentioned to you that as an outcome of the presentations to the United Nations Office for Food and Agriculture based in Rome, Italy, that I was sent to Bratislava, a province that was part of old Czechoslovakia, that a bishop from the Indian Catholic Church was in my office twice because he had written a pamphlet on that the fact in India they have more millions living in abject poverty on less than $1 a day, and that there were resources were not available in China to ever build the medical school to train the doctors, the hospitals for training and doctors and nurses and to practice in clinics, that it just didn't exist for these millions. However, what we've been talking about that is active in the blue zones, which are indigenous lifestyles and habits of food from nature, would be very healthy and the most effective and economical approach to managing health in India. And working with him, we had outlined and had a protocol for a research project for a church clinic in Kerala, India, to test the white box effect. And if it worked there with these destitute individuals, that it would be spread to other states in India. Well, he went to wealthy Indians that had migrated to the United States and become wealthy, and tried to get them to contribute to this study to test the white box effect, and it failed. So then he went to the Arab immigrants, and if you know this, the royal families in the Middle East provide health care for the whole population. And he pointed out if in their copious amounts of money from oil and gas there, that if they would contribute to this, we would give the information to them to reduce the healthcare costs for their population. And unfortunately, they said no. And so that's the status that the white box effect is a theory that has been observed that sits waiting to be tested. Well, that is the last of what I will present of this issue from the National Geographic, that the World Health Organization has identified these regions that we went through and some of the common superficial aspects of life that is common to all of these. And we started out by pointing out that we have in the United States an individual, William Shatner, that is 91 years old, and in his personal life, he has implemented many of these key aspects of blue zone areas the World Health Organization has identified. And sure enough, he's in great shape and very active. And I hope with this series on the blue zone effect, individuals will take knowledge of it and apply it in their lives, and will get benefits for the future to have more productive years, years with purpose, and years of excellent health. With that, that's the end of this presentation.
Well, you heard it here. I do want to go back and clarify because I took notes and made sure to grab his statement. So when you go to New Eden, use the link in the description so that you get family discount as well as signing up for the subscription, so you get the discount that way too. There's a little place where you can write a note, and they have many studies, and you can tell Dr. McDaniel and the crew at New Eden what your deviation from normal health is, and they might be able to give you a study or some more information about where phytonutrition or micronutrition has helped the body heal itself. The body. So you guys take care. Thanks so much for all the great active chat and great information in the live stream. If you missed this and are watching this later, try to catch our live show every weekday at 4 p.m. Central. We have a great community with lots of information about all kinds of things. And we kind of use that opportunity to share information. So hope to see you guys there. Today is my mother's birthday, so happy birthday at Crypto Nana for LTC, also known as Sylvia Tomlinson, the woman that gave me life and gave me Litecoin. So you guys take care, have a great day, and keep the hope alive.